The air in Youngstown, Ohio, hung heavy with the scent of rust and coal dust, a gritty reminder of the steel mill that still anchored the town in 2024. The mill's smokestacks loomed over the skyline, coughing out plumes of gray that blended into the overcast sky. Marcus Cole, 32, trudged through the mill's gates, his welding helmet slung under one arm, his work boots crunching on the gravel. His hands, calloused and scarred from years of wielding a torch, itched to create something more than the utilitarian beams he welded daily. In his small apartment above Rusty's dive bar, Marcus's true passion lived: intricate metal sculptures, twisted rebar shaped into soaring birds, scrap steel molded into abstract waves, that earned him quiet nods of respect from locals but no notice from the people who mattered most. Marcus's parents, Gloria and Frank, lived 10 miles away in a modest ranch house that doubled as a shrine to his younger sister, Lena. At 27, Lena was Youngstown's golden girl, a figure skater with her eyes on the Olympics. The living room walls gleamed with her medals, framed posters of her midspin, and shelves of sparkling trophies. Marcus's sculptures, the few he dared to show his parents, were banished to the garage, gathering dust beside old lawnmowers and forgotten Christmas decorations. He'd stopped bringing them over years ago, tired of Gloria's distracted, "That's nice, dear," and Frank's grunt before they launched into another story about Lena's latest triple axle. Flashbacks haunted Marcus as he worked, the mill's roar fading into memories of his childhood. At 16, he'd spent months perfecting a welded steel model of Youngstown's skyline for a regional competition, pouring every spare hour into its jagged spires. He'd won first place, but when he called his parents to share the news, they were at Lena's skating meet in Cleveland. "We'll celebrate when we're back," Gloria had promised, but they never did. At 19, Marcus left home, funding trade school with late-night shifts at a diner, scraping together every penny for tools and materials. Now, he sent $500 a month to his parents, believing it helped with their mortgage. Unaware, they funneled it to Lena's private skating coaches. After his shift, Marcus climbed the creaky stairs to his apartment, the faint thump of music from Rusty's below vibrating through the walls. Rosa, the bartender, greeted him with a warm smile and a cold beer, her dark eyes catching the dim light. "Made anything new lately?" she asked, nodding toward the corner where a half-finished sculpture, a steel eagle with outstretched wings, gleamed. Rosa, 30, with her quick wit and knack for remembering everyone's stories, was the only one who ever asked about his art. She'd moved to Youngstown 2 years ago, escaping a bad breakup in Pittsburgh, and her encouragement made Marcus's chest tighten in a way he couldn't quite name. At the community center down the street, Marcus met Eli, a retired welder with a grizzled beard and a limp from a long-ago mill accident. Eli ran the center, a haven for kids dodging the town's dead-end traps. "You've got a gift, Marcus," Eli said one evening, eyeing a small sculpture Marcus had donated for a fundraiser. "But you're wasting it letting your family walk all over you." Marcus shrugged, used to the advice but unsure how to break free from the weight of his parents' indifference. That night, his phone buzzed. Gloria's voice came through, clipped and expectant. "Marcus, we need $10,000 for Lena's new coach. It's critical for her Olympic prep." No greeting, no questions about his life. Marcus gripped the phone, the familiar sting of being invisible cutting deep. "I'm barely covering rent, Mom," he said, voice tight. "Can't you ask Lena's sponsors?" Frank's voice cut in gruff. "This is her shot, Marcus. Don't let her down." The call ended, and Marcus stared at the eagle sculpture, its wings unfinished, like his own dreams. He agreed to scrape together the money, hoping this time they'd see his worth. In the quiet of his apartment, Marcus sketched plans for a welding studio, a space to create and display his sculptures, maybe even teach others. It was a dream he'd nursed since trade school. But the mill's looming layoffs and his family's demands made it feel like a fantasy. Still, Rosa's laughter from downstairs and Eli's gruff encouragement lingered, planting seeds of something Marcus hadn't felt in years: possibility. He wanted to prove he was more than the overlooked son, that his hands could build a legacy worth seeing. The steel mill's cavernous interior roared with the clatter of machinery, a symphony of grinding metal and hissing torches that Marcus Cole had long since tuned out. It was a Tuesday in Youngstown, Ohio, 2024, and Marcus, 32, was perched on a scaffold, his welding mask down, sparks flying as he fused a massive steel beam. The air was thick with the acrid tang of molten metal, and sweat soaked his work shirt despite the early spring chill. He'd been at it for 10 hours, pushing through the fatigue, his mind drifting to the half-finished eagle sculpture waiting in his apartment. The mill was a pressure cooker. Rumors of layoffs swirled, and Victor Klein, the slick-talking manager, had been dodging safety inspections to cut costs. Marcus noticed the faint whiff of gas earlier but shook it off. Klein had dismissed his concerns last week, sneering, "Don't play safety cop, Cole. Just weld." Then it happened. A low rumble shook the scaffold, followed by a deafening boom. The world turned to fire and chaos. A gas leak, ignored by Klein, ignited, sending a shockwave through the mill. Marcus was thrown backward, his leg pinned under a jagged steel beam, his skin seared by a wave of heat. Pain exploded through him, sharp and unrelenting, as blood poured from a gash above his knee, pooling on the concrete floor. His vision blurred, the mill's ceiling spinning above him. "Help!" he screamed, his voice lost in the cacophony of alarms and shouts. Debris pinned him down, his welding torch now a useless weight beside him. His hands, trembling, fumbled for his phone, smearing blood across the screen. He dialed his mother, Gloria. The line rang twice before she picked up, her voice distant over the chatter of a crowd. "Marcus, we're at Lena's gala." "What's wrong?" Her tone was impatient, like he'd interrupted her grocery list. "Mom," he gasped, pain clawing at his chest. "There was an explosion. I'm hurt bad. Bleeding. Please come now." A pause. Then Gloria's voice, casual as ever. "Call 911, Marcus. We're busy. Lena's meeting Olympic scouts." He tried his father, Frank. Straight to voicemail. Desperate, he called Lena, his sister, her laughter cutting through the gala's music. "Marcus, I'm kinda in the middle of something. Call an ambulance, okay?" The line went dead. Marcus's heart pounded, each beat pumping more blood onto the floor. His vision tunneled, black creeping in. He was going to die here, alone, while his family toasted Lena's Olympic dreams 10 miles away. Then, through the haze, he heard a voice, Rosa, the bartender from Rusty's dive bar, who'd been delivering drinks to the mill's break room. "Marcus," she shouted, her boots pounding across the rubble. She dropped to her knees beside him, her dark eyes wide with panic. "Oh God, stay with me." She tore off her flannel shirt, pressing it against his leg. Her hand steadied despite the blood soaking through. "Somebody get a medic," she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. She tied her belt around his thigh, yanking it tight. And Marcus groaned as the pressure slowed the bleeding. Paramedics arrived, their faces a blur as they lifted him onto a stretcher, Rosa's hand gripping his until they loaded him into the ambulance. In the hospital, the antiseptic smell stung Marcus's nose as he woke to the steady beep of monitors. His right leg throbbed under a mass of bandages, his skin raw from burns. Rosa was slumped in a chair beside him, her clothes still stained with his blood, her face pale from exhaustion. A doctor, a wiry man with a clipboard, entered, his expression grim. "Mr. Cole, you're lucky to be alive. The beam crushed your leg and the burns are severe. We saved the limb, but the nerve and muscle damage means you'll likely never weld on industrial projects again. Standing for long periods, heavy lifting. It's off the table." Marcus stared at the ceiling, the words sinking in like a slow poison. Welding was his life, his identity. The one thing he built from nothing. Without it, who was he? Rosa squeezed his hand, her touch grounding him. "You're still here, Marcus. That's what matters." He wanted to believe her, but the weight of his loss was suffocating. Later that day, his parents and Lena arrived not to check on him, but with an agenda. Gloria adjusted her designer scarf, avoiding his gaze. "Marcus, we need to talk. Lena's Olympic training camp starts next month, and it's $30,000. It's a family priority." Frank nodded, arms crossed. "You've got savings, right? This is for Lena's future." Marcus, groggy from pain meds, felt a surge of betrayal. "I almost died," he rasped. "You didn't come when I called. You didn't even visit until now." Gloria waved a hand dismissively. "Don't be dramatic. You're fine now. Lena's chance at gold is once in a lifetime." They left without a backward glance, leaving Marcus reeling. A nurse checking his chart let slip that his $500 monthly payments to his parents, money he thought went to their mortgage, had been funding Lena's skating coaches for years. Eli, the retired welder from the community center, visited that evening, his limp echoing Marcus's new reality. Over coffee from the hospital cafeteria, Eli shared his own story, a mill accident 30 years ago that ended his career, forcing him to reinvent himself as a mentor. I was you, Marcus, angry, lost. But I found a new path teaching kids at the center. You can too. His words stirred something in Marcus. A flicker of hope amid the despair. Rosa, who'd barely left his side, chimed in, her voice soft but fierce. I've been saving to open a community art space. Your sculptures, Marcus, they could inspire people. You're not done creating. Her belief in him sparked a warmth he hadn't felt in years, but doubt gnawed at him. Rosa was vibrant, ambitious. Why would she care about a broken welder like him? That night, alone with the hum of hospital machines, Marcus wrestled with his reality. His career was gone, his family's betrayal laid bare. They'd taken his money, his loyalty, and left him to die while celebrating Lena's gala. Yet Rosa's steady presence and Eli's gruff wisdom offered a lifeline. A tentative spark of attraction to Rosa flickered, but Marcus pushed it down, convinced he wasn't worthy of her. His body ached, his future uncertain, but one question burned. Could he keep pouring himself into a family that valued Lena's dreams over his life? He stared at the hospital ceiling, the weight of his choice pressing down. Survival wasn't just about healing his body. It was about deciding who he'd let define his worth. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and despair, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on Marcus Cole's face as he lay propped up in bed, his bandaged leg a constant reminder of the explosion that had shattered his life. It was a week since the mill accident in Youngstown, Ohio 2024, and Marcus, 32, was still grappling with the doctor's words. No more industrial welding, no more standing for hours shaping steel. His identity as a welder, built through years of sweat and solitary nights crafting sculptures, felt like ash in his mouth. The steady beep of the heart monitor was his only company most hours, save for Rosa's visits. Rosa, the bartender from Rusty's dive bar, had become his anchor, her dark eyes in quick smile pulling him back from the edge of hopelessness. But even her warmth couldn't dull the sting of his family's betrayal, ignoring his desperate calls for help during the explosion, too busy celebrating his sister Lena's Olympic skating gala. On a gray Wednesday morning, Marcus's parents, Gloria and Frank, swept into the room with Lena trailing behind, her sleek ponytail and designer tracksuit a stark contrast to Marcus's hospital gown. Gloria's perfume clashed with the sterile air, and Frank's impatient fidgeting set Marcus's nerves on edge. They didn't ask about his leg, his burns, or the nightmares that woke him screaming about fire and blood. Instead, Gloria launched in, her voice sharp with urgency. Marcus, we've got a problem. Lena's Olympic bid is at risk without new equipment, custom blades, training gear. It's $30,000 and we need you to sell your welding tools to cover it. Frank nodded, arms crossed. Your stuff's just sitting there, Marcus. It's not like you're using it now. Lena shifted uncomfortably but said nothing, her eyes fixed on the floor. Marcus's chest tightened, his hands clenching the bedsheet. My tools, he rasped, voice rough from disuse. You want me to sell the only thing I've got left? For Lena. Gloria's lips pursed. Don't be selfish. Lena's got a shot at gold. Your little hobby, those sculptures, won't pay the bills. The word hobby hit like a slap, dismissing the steel birds and abstract waves that had earned him respect in Youngstown's gritty corners. Before Marcus could respond, Rosa, who'd been quietly dropping off coffee, stepped forward from the doorway, her face flushed with anger. Hobby, she snapped, her voice cutting through the room. Marcus almost died in that explosion. Bleeding out while you partied at Lena's gala. He called you, begging for help, and you told him to call 911. You didn't even visit until you needed money. And now you want him to give up everything he's built. Gloria's eyes widened, her hand clutching her purse. This is a family matter, she hissed. Who are you to interfere? Marcus's rage boiled over, drowning out the pain in his leg. He sat up, ignoring the stab of agony, and pointed at his parents. She's more family than you've ever been. You left me to die. Rosa saved my life. Eli's been here, not you. Get out. You're not my family anymore, Rosa and Eli are. Lena's mouth opened, but no words came. Frank's face reddened, but Marcus's glare silenced him. They left, Gloria's heels clicking angrily down the hall, Lena casting a fleeting, guilty glance back. The room felt lighter, but Marcus's heart pounded with the weight of what he'd done. Rosa sat beside him, her hand finding his. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have. No, Marcus cut her off, voice firm. You said what I couldn't. That afternoon he opened his banking app, hands shaking, and canceled the $500 monthly transfers to his parents. He called a lawyer friend, updating his will to name Rosa as his beneficiary, erasing his family from any claim to his life. He blocked their numbers, Gloria, Frank, Lena, one by one, each tap a severance of a lifelong wound. Eli, the retired welder from the community center, visited later, his grizzled face softening as Marcus recounted the confrontation. You did good, kid, Eli said, leaning on his cane. But now what? You can't weld like before, but you've got skills. Come to the center, teach some of the kids. They need someone like you. Marcus hesitated, picturing his wheelchair-bound reality. But Eli's story of rebuilding after his own injury sparked a flicker of purpose. I lost my trade too, Eli said. Found my place helping others. You can do the same. The next day, Marcus learned a bitter truth from a hospital billing clerk. The mill's explosion wasn't an accident. Victor Klein, the corrupt manager, had ignored gas leak reports to save costs, risking lives for profit. Eli, who'd been rallying injured workers, urged Marcus to join a class action lawsuit against the mill. Klein's negligence did this to you, Eli said, handing him a folder of safety violations. We can hold them accountable, get you compensation. Marcus signed on, fueled by anger at Klein's greed and a need for justice. The lawsuit was a long shot, but it gave him something to fight for. At Eli's community center, Marcus started mentoring teens from Youngstown's rough edges, teaching welding basics from his wheelchair. Kids like Jamal, a lanky 17-year-old with a rap sheet and a quick mind, soaked up his lessons on shaping metal. Marcus found unexpected joy in their progress, each spark from their torches lighting something in him too. But the victory was bittersweet. Medical bills piled up, his insurance covering barely half the surgeries in rehab. His savings dwindled, and the rent on his apartment loomed. Cutting off his family freed him emotionally, but financially, he was hanging by a thread. Late one night, as Rosa helped him into bed, Marcus's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Victor Klein's voice slithered through, cold and menacing. Drop the lawsuit, Cole, or you'll regret it. I've got friends who can make life hard for you. The call ended before Marcus could respond, leaving a chill that no blanket could warm. Rosa, sensing his fear, squeezed his shoulder. We'll fight this together, she said, her voice steady. Marcus nodded, but doubt nodded him. Could he rebuild his life, teach these kids, and take on Klein's threats when his body and bank account were barely holding together? Teaching gave Marcus a spark of purpose, but the lawsuit was his fire. He wasn't just fighting for himself, it was for every worker Klein had endangered, for the life he'd lost in that explosion. Rosa's belief in him, Eli's mentorship, and the teens' eager faces were his new foundation. He wasn't the welder he'd been, but maybe he could forge something new, something that mattered. As he drifted to sleep, the weight of his family's betrayal lingered, but so did a growing resolve. He'd find his worth, not in their eyes, but in his own. 3 months after cutting ties with his family, Marcus Cole sat in a wheelchair at Eli's Community Center in Youngstown, Ohio, 2024. Surrounded by the hum of welding torches and the eager chatter of teens. His leg, still braced and aching from the mill explosion, was a constant reminder of what he'd lost, but the sight of Jamal, a lanky 17-year-old with a troubled past, shaping a flawless weld on a steel plate sparked something new in Marcus. His classes had grown from a handful of kids to a dozen, their faces lighting up as they turned scrap metal into art under his guidance. Jamal, once headed for juvie, now dreamed of trade school, his deft hands mirroring Marcus's own skill. The community center's cramped workshop felt alive, a far cry from the sterile hospital room where Marcus had once faced his family's betrayal. Rosa, ever present with her quick smile, watched from the sidelines, her bartender apron swapped for a notepad as she sketched plans for something bigger. Over coffee one evening as the center emptied, she slid the notepad toward Marcus. Cole's Forge, she said, pointing to a logo of a torch and anvil. A real welding academy, blending your trade and your sculptures. I've got savings, and if your lawsuit against the mill pays out, we can make it happen. Marcus stared, his heart racing. The idea was bold. Too bold for a man whose savings were bleeding out to medical bills and apartment rent. But Rosa's belief in him, her dream of a community art space merging with his own, felt like a lifeline. Partners? He asked, half joking. She grinned, leaning closer. In every way. Their partnership deepened beyond the workshop. One night, as Rosa helped Marcus navigate his apartment's narrow stairs, he stopped her, his voice low. I don't know why you're here, Rosa. Sticking with a guy who's falling apart. She cupped his face, her eyes fierce. Because I love you, you idiot. I've loved you since you showed me that eagle sculpture. Marcus's breath caught. And he kissed her, the weight of his doubts melting in her warmth. They moved in together the next week, her coffee mugs mixing with his tools. Their lives intertwining as naturally as steel under a torch. Meanwhile, the lawsuit against Victor Klein, the mill's corrupt manager, gained momentum. Eli, digging through old contacts, uncovered doctored safety reports buried in the mill's records, proof Klein had ignored gas leaks to cut costs. Marcus and Eli leaked the documents to a local journalist, Sarah Ruiz, whose expose hit the papers, igniting public outrage. The lawsuit swelled, with more workers joining, but the victory came at a cost. One night, Marcus woke to shattering glass. Thugs sent by Klein had trashed his apartment. Spray painting dropped the suit on the walls. Rosa, unflinching, rallied Jamal and the other teens to clean up. Their loyalty a shield against Klein's threats. We've got your back, Jamal said, gripping a broom like a weapon. Marcus felt a surge of pride. These kids were his family now. The lawsuit's success came swiftly. A judge awarded Marcus and the workers a substantial settlement, enough to clear his $90,000 medical debt and fund Cole's Forge. As Marcus and Rosa filed paperwork to certify the academy, his parents called, their voices desperate. Gloria admitted they faced foreclosure. Lena's Olympic bid having collapsed after a choke performance under pressure. We need help, Marcus, Frank pleaded. Marcus's jaw tightened. He saw himself bleeding out in the mill. Their dismissal of his cries echoing. You made your choice, he said, hanging up. No guilt lingered, only resolve. Lena appeared at the community center a week later, her eyes red. No longer the polished skater. I was so caught up in myself, she said, voice breaking. I didn't see what Mom and Dad did to you. I'm sorry. Marcus studied her, the sister he'd once envied. I forgive you, he said, but I'm done living for you all. Lena nodded, leaving quietly. He felt no pull to reconnect, his heart anchored to Rosa, Eli, and the teens. Cole's Forge became Marcus's mission, a place to teach skills and spark dreams. Exposing Klein's greed through the lawsuit gave him a voice, proving his worth not just to Youngstown but to himself. As he watched Jamal weld a sculpture, a crude but earnest bird, Marcus knew he was building a legacy, not of steel, but of lives reshaped like his own. Spring sunlight streamed through the open doors of Cole's Forge, Youngstown, Ohio's newest certified trade school. In April 2025, Marcus Cole, now 33, leaned on his cane. His scarred leg a quiet ache as he surveyed the workshop. The space, once a dusty corner of Eli's community center, now buzzed with the hum of welding torches and the laughter of a dozen teens shaping steel. Cole's Forge, born from Rosa's vision and Marcus's lawsuit settlement, had a 2-month waiting list. Its reputation spreading beyond Youngstown's rust-streaked borders. Jamal, the once troubled 17-year-old, now 18, stood at Marcus's side as his assistant, guiding a younger student through a weld with the confidence Marcus had nurtured. The old steel mill, shuttered after Victor Klein's arrest for fraud, no longer loomed over the town. Klein's conviction, fueled by the leaked safety reports Marcus and Eli had exposed, had paved the way for new businesses, a brewery, a tech startup, breathing life into Youngstown streets. Marcus's sculptures, once hidden in his apartment, caught the eye of a Cleveland gallery curator at a community event. She offered him a solo exhibit, a chance to showcase the soaring birds and abstract waves that had been his solace through pain. Marcus dedicated the exhibit to Rosa and Eli, his voice breaking as he thanked them at the opening. They saved me, he told the crowd, Rosa's hand in his, Eli's gruff nod from the front row. The teens from Cole's Forge attended, their own metal art, Jamal's jagged steel tree, a girl's delicate wire flower displayed alongside Marcus's, a testament to his legacy. The gallery buzzed with pride, Youngstown's gritty heart reflected in every weld. Marcus's parents, Gloria and Frank, had faded into the town's margins, working low-wage jobs at a hardware store and a diner after losing their home. Lena, his sister, coached at a local rink. Her Olympic dreams crumbled under pressure. Marcus heard this through whispers, feeling only a distant pang. Their neglect, ignoring his desperate calls during the mill explosion, had forged his resolve to build a new family. Rosa, now his wife, wore a simple band on her finger. Their wedding a quiet affair under Youngstown's spring sky. Eli, the kids, the workshop, they were his kin now. In the workshop's heart, Marcus welded a new sculpture. A phoenix rising from twisted steel, sparks flying as Rosa watched, her smile brighter than the torch. The teens worked nearby, their laughter drowning out the ghosts of his past. A flashback gripped him. The mill's fiery chaos, blood pooling, his family's voices dismissing his pleas. Then the present snapped back, the workshop's vibrant energy, tools clattering. Jamal's proud grin. Marcus no longer craved his family's approval. Cole's forge, his art, the lives he'd shaped, they were his fire, forged from pain into purpose. He set down his torch. Rosa's hand on his shoulder and knew he built something unbreakable.